Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of According To Kaz Queen. And as always, I'm Kaz.
And I'm Queen.
Thank you guys again for joining us on another episode of this podcast of ours. These are conversations that happen between a husband and wife in the privacy of our own home that we bring to you guys, sometimes to laugh, sometimes to think, sometimes to be introspective, but most of all, we want you guys to open the lines of communication between yourselves and your significant other or friends or your friend circle or your colleagues, whatever the case might be. We do this podcast because, our conversations, sometimes get really intricate. We don't always agree on those things, on those topics that we talk about. So I think it's always good to make sure that you have an open line of communication when you have differences of opinion. And we just bring those things to you guys so you can listen to them. As always, you can check us out on all streaming services. We are available on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, and of course, Black with No Chaser Radio. So make sure that you download the Black with No Chaser app, please. It's BWNC Radio. Download that app, man, so you can check us out on Black with No Chaser Radio every Tuesday at 7 p.m. with every new episode. And if you like checking in and seeing our bright, shiny faces, of course, make sure that you subscribe to the YouTube channel, man. A lot of y'all have been doing it. You are steadily climbing. We are on the road to 1,000 subscribers. So make sure that you get there because we're trying to monetize this channel. You know what I'm saying? Bring in some revenue. So get me to 1,000 subscribers, man. All you got to do is bam, right under my finger right there. Make sure you subscribe to that YouTube channel. Go right now. Subscribe to that YouTube channel. All right. Make sure you like it. And make sure you turn on the notifications because every time we have a new episode up or any new content on that YouTube channel, you'll be able to check it out. And of course, this is always brought to you by the Kundi Collection. All right, www.kundicollective.com. That's www.kundicollective.com. Got it on right here. Make sure you go check it out. Go to the website and check out all of the fantastic designs. All right. We got a lot of designs, man. And all of those designs are, something that comes from the mind of myself and my beautiful bride. It's a lot of great stuff on there, man. So make sure you go out there and check that out. Buy a bunch of stuff when you go to that website. Buy a whole bunch of stuff and we'll get it out to you in a very prompt manner. So, that's that on that. But at any rate, a lot of stuff going on this week. We have been busy this week coming out of the weekend, coming out of WrestleMania weekend. I finally got my wife back in to her wrestling mode. So she was equally excited this past weekend to be able to check out WrestleMania. So we checked out both days of WrestleMania, got a chance to take in our favorite pastime, or one of our favorite pastimes, and that is watching wrestling. I got her back on board again, got her locked back in. So shouts out to Roman Reigns and the Bloodline, because that compelling storyline is what reeled you back in. And
baby, I was reeled back in because it makes you happy, and I wanted to spend time with you. That
is incorrect. I don't need you to patronize me.
That's crazy.
I had to convince you to watch the storyline because I was just pumping up the storyline, and I was telling you how dope the storyline was, and you wanted to check it out. Come on now.
It wasn't.
Come on now.
I missed watching wrestling with you.
Okay.
It used to be a very significant part of our coupleship.
If that's what we're going to go with, then that's cool. I will take it. I'm not going to argue that point, but I do distinctly remember sitting there and kind of explaining to you the storyline that was going on with Roman Reigns and how dope it was and how it was one of the greatest storylines that had occurred in wrestling in many, many years. And you were intrigued. And I got you pulled in, and you checked out the story.
I mean, it wasn't hard because, Roman Reigns ain't hard to look at.
All right, here we go.
And neither are the Usos. So I was very intrigued to just kind of take a gander at what those brothers was bringing to the table.
All right. So, for those of you that are wrestling enthusiasts, Queen is back into the fold now. So now I'm about to try to expand her palette a little bit. Got her to watch a little bit of NXT. And I'm going to try to expand it to see if I can get her to watch a little AEW, maybe, because Chris Jericho is over there, and that's one of her favorite wrestlers of all time. So I'm going to try to get her in tune to AEW, and then maybe try to branch out a little bit and see how far I can extend her wrestling palette.
Wait a minute. Give you an inch and you take a yard.
Hey, I mean, I got you to NXT. That was a really short jump. So I got you to NXT. So, you know, we watched Stand and Deliver and we watched WrestleMania. So, you know, you've always been a fan of Chris Jericho. And,
yes.
You know, so I want you to take a look at the other promotion as well to see if you like it and see if you get in tune with it, because, you know, that's going to bring you deeper into the fold. That's going to really bring you back in if that happens.
I'm in.
I'm
as in as I was the first
in.
time around.
Okay. Well, that's cool. We can say that. That's cool.
Is there any change? What did you call it? What?
AEW. It's
AEW.
All Elite Wrestling.
All Elite Wrestling. So that's completely separate from WWE.
It is completely. It's
I
another
have no
company.
Interest. I don't want to. I don't.
It's another company.
That's cheating. I'm not going to cheat on WWE.
Cheating. It's not cheating. You've eaten McDonald's and Burger King before, haven't you?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, that's not cheating on one or the other. You're just partaking.
But I get one burger from one place and one burger from the other place.
I mean, I have gotten burgers from Burger King and fries from McDonald's because McDonald's has the best fries in the world.
I don't know how we got here.
Well, it was basically you trying to say that I could not watch another wrestling company if I watch WWE.
Well, what I'm really basically saying is WWE is top notch. It's the pinnacle. It's the mountaintop. So what's the point in watching the stuff on the ground?
On the ground?
Yeah.
Why did you put it on the ground?
WWE is the mountaintop, then
I don't. Well, I've seen some programs that could be closer to the ground. You don't want to see those. I'm not going to even suggest those.
I just mean lower. That's all I mean.
A lower tier. You know, maybe in popularity, yes, it is. But
what about in the audience? Is the audience
the audiences are big audiences. They're doing arenas as well, and they're traveling. And they've been doing some house shows.
Does it look like a documentary when it's filmed, or does it look like the WWE?
It looks like the WWE. The production quality on it is quality.
That's what I mean. The
production quality is quality. And Chris Jericho went over to that promotion. So
why did he do that?
He wanted to try to spread his wings. He wanted to try to do something different. And
is he doing something different?
That is where Cody Rhodes came from. Cody Rhodes was one of the founders of that promotion, and he came back to WWE.
Cody Rhodes is one of the founders of
not
AEW?
one of the founders, but he was one of the vice presidents when he was there, and he came back to WWE.
I mean, that's not really a selling point for me, but it's noted.
Yeah,
I've noted it.
I realized that as soon as I said it, but. To say that
is Jericho doing something different?
Yes, he's had several different personas since he left
that are not like Jericho.
That are not.
Is he
like
going
Jericho.
by Jericho?
He's still Chris Jericho, but he's had several different monikers. He's had several different character changes, several different nickname
changes. Face or
changes.
heel currently?
He's currently a heel.
Oh yeah, I might watch that now.
He's currently a heel, but he has been a face.
If he's currently a heel, I'll check it out.
He's currently a heel. So I'll try to get you into that, you know what I'm saying, at some point this week. So if we can get you locked in on that, then, you know, that just takes this whole thing to a whole nother level. There you go.
I'm with it.
All right. We're going to try that. So at any rate, something in particular that we want to talk about, and you know, we've kind of touched on it, you know, in this podcast a couple of times ago, but you know, this Jonathan Majors situation is a really weird situation. It's a crazy situation. There appears to be a lot of layers to this situation, because everyone has kind of you know, been celebrating him for all the work that he's been getting. You know, of course, he is, you know, Kang, the Conqueror in this phase of Marvel, and he's basically the linchpin in this phase of the Marvel movies. He's going to have a derivative of his character is going to appear literally in pretty much every TV show and every movie that comes out in this particular phase, all the way leading up to the eventual Avengers movie. Then he had Creed 3 to come out as well. He's got a bodybuilding movie that's about to come out as well. So this was about to be his season, and we talked about this being his season. And then lo and behold, as some of the conspiracy theorists might pull out, lo and behold, suddenly, a couple of weeks ago, he was charged with battery or abuse of his girlfriend, and immediately the pundits came out with different viewpoints on, him being targeted as a successful black man, a conspiracy against black men. Then B, there were a lot of people who were, huge fans who immediately and instantly, even before the evidence presented itself, turned on him at that point. So you had people that were solidly in both camps. And now we see that these text messages between him and his girlfriend after the incident have emerged. And again, there's differing opinions on both sides, because the text messages obviously released by his lawyer were supposed to, I think, exonerate him. But at the same time, the text messages kind of prove that he may have indeed actually been physical with his girlfriend. And, I sent the text messages to you, gave you the opportunity to look at the text messages as a survivor of domestic violence. And we've talked about that a lot. And I think it's important for, a lot of people that are listening to this podcast to hear from survivors and hear from people who have been through this and understand the mentality that goes along with this. I just want to get your thoughts when you read those text messages, knowing what the situation was, juxtaposed against the popularity of Jonathan Majors right now, what your thoughts were.
Well, what I'll say is that I don't have enough evidence currently. There's not enough information for me to actually make a solid determination on what my opinion is. But what I'm weighing against is I think there is something to be said for him possibly being targeted as a black man, especially with a white girlfriend. Okay. Mm-hmm. So that is not, what the rich white folk want to see. So I can see a point to that. But most glaringly for me, as a woman who has been in this woman's shoes, the text messages actually did not help him, because for me, it sounded like what an abused, not a one-time hit or quitter, you got in the way, let me punch you and move, and baby, I'm sorry. Her response looks like that of a woman who is continuously been abused. Mm-hmm. So that didn't help him. She feels like it's her fault. She went into damage control mode, all to get him back so he's not angry with her. That's what it read like to me. Mm-hmm. I've been her, and I've been the person who's apologizing for making you hit me. I've been the person who's apologizing for all the cops coming and all the hoopla, and now all this stuff is on you. It's my fault. So that's what it read like to me. I immediately felt like, golly, this is what this is, because that's what women who are in love with abusive, narcissistic men do. And actually, his energy is, to me, as an energy reader, his energy is not far from one that could lend to him actually being a narcissist. Don't get me wrong, people. I am a fan of his. I want him to win. I want him to, if he is abusive or ever has been abusive and has an anger issue, we don't know what this story is, but I want him to get help. I want him to, do what he needs to do to gather himself and get himself together, get the help that he needs, and continue on the path that he's created for himself. But to answer your question, those text messages, all that information she was given, he was not even responding in the messages that I saw. It was just her just chiming away.
There was actually a piece of the text, I guess you had to kind of scroll your screen over a little bit, where he responded and asked her, "Did you leave the keys?" And then he said goodbye. And then she continued the conversation on. There was like a little piece in there, but it was off to the right.
I didn't see that.
Yeah.
So was this all one conversation?
This was all one conversation, but his only response was, "Did you leave the keys?" And then goodbye. And then there was a portion of it that was blurred out. And they're trying to say if he was saying goodbye,
Why would they blur it out?
I don't know what the word was. They said goodbye, and then they blurred out what he said next.
Oh, probably be.
It could have been.
It could be either way. We do not have enough information. And I don't even know if I've seen him respond to it. Yeah.
He hasn't. I think in this particular instance, I think this is, a testament to, maybe him having a better team around him, because he has not said a word.
I don't think he should.
Since he was arrested. And he shouldn't at this point. It's so unfortunate. And then you can see the difference in the way we're trying to process this, at least in the Black community. The way that we're trying to process this as opposed to other instances where this has happened. Say, for instance, with the Tory Lanez situation, or say, for instance, with, the R. Kelly situations, or say, for instance, with any of the other situations, even with Chris Brown. It's very difficult for people to come out and have the same opinion about Jonathan Majors, because he has been on such a hot streak, because he has not exhibited this behavior publicly to all of our knowledge, and because we have been wanting him to win, and he's become this somewhat of a sex symbol, ever since Lovecraft County. People were kind of conflicted when they got this news, but now you're looking at it, and then there were two other stories that existed from other producers that have worked on other movies that said that they were waiting for this to come out because he has exhibited this behavior before. And I'm trying to sit here and say to myself, like, man, if you are really responsible for doing this, and this is the kind of behavior, your timing is absolutely awful.
Well, unfortunately, there is a thing about him. He carries a thing. He carries energy, a vibe.
You feel that way?
I do. I feel like he seems his energy seems very familiar to me. And I liken it to the narcissist that I have come in contact with in my life. I'm not saying that there's no chance that I'm wrong. I'm just saying that I'm not surprised. If it's true that this is not the first time, I would not be surprised. If it's true that he actually did put his hands on her, I would not be surprised. But I want this to not be true.
I think
I really do.
I don't want it to be true, just simply because, he is on a run of a lifetime right now, professionally. Like, very rarely do people get in this rarefied air where they have all of these movies coming out at one time and is getting all of this press and all of the photo shoots that he's been on, and, being a part of the Marvel universe and being in every movie and being the big bad for this particular phase. And then Creed 3, the success. Like, it's wild that this is happening now. And, the conspiracy theorists can easily say, he was getting too hot. But then again, you could also say that because he was getting hot, he might have gotten a little bit cocky, and he might have slipped up and let some of these attributes come back out.
The universe and its karma works in mysterious ways. Got to make better choices. Period. Across the board.
Yeah. And we don't know all of the details of the situation. Apparently, there was a phone that she tried to grab and tried to go through his phone, and he allegedly strangled her or put his hands around her neck at that time. And then, there was the calling of the police, and then came the backtracking afterward, because, of course, in this day and age, instantly, because he already got dropped from one campaign, but instantly in this day and age, there's zero tolerance for it.
Yep. And she backpedaled big time.
Yeah.
She really, really tried to, come to his rescue. But again, I've done that.
So talk about that a little bit, because, I wanted to talk about this, and I think it's important. for our audience to hear this, because very rarely, we're in a different position because, you have survived it. You have been through it. You know what it looks like. You know what it feels like. You know what the trauma is, and you talk about it a lot. The thought process behind, the aftermath of one of these things happening or one of these incidents happening, where you just literally become another person, and then you take responsibility for what happened, and you take responsibility and still in a protective mode for your abuser.
Well, see, what happens is the whole time the narcissist / abuser has been setting the tone for the brainwash, right? So my friends and family are gone. Anybody who would influence me to do the right thing or to walk away, I've been moved away from. I've been told already at this point that I'm irrational and I make him do this to me. And, nobody's going to listen to you. So they're going to think you lying. Nobody's going to believe you over me. Your world will change. And the guy that I was with didn't have half the money that Jonathan Majors has.
Half.
He didn't have a third of it, any of it. Okay. So if he could get me like that, imagine somebody who actually can change your life, telling you that you'll never be able to get to where I can take you if you're not with me. I would imagine that would be important to this young lady. So the scene has already been set up. So now if you go to jail, it's my fault. I don't have anybody else but you. I'm not going to make it without you, because literally people who have not been in this situation may not understand this, but literally you actually believe what they're telling you after a while. Even if you start off saying, that's bull junk, I'm not going to believe that, he crazy, blah, 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 blah. After a certain amount of time, that gets into your mental psyche and you start believing it, even if you are not aware that you believe it. I just happened to figure it out after the relationship was over that, okay, I don't know who I am. I don't know what I believe. I don't know what I think. I don't even know the person that my mother and father raised. I don't even know who she is anymore, because I only believed what he told me. And most of the things he told me about myself robbed me of my personal power, my self-esteem, my ability to get out. I just became dependent on him. That's what narcissists do. They make you believe that they are the only way. When you take away, so now he has, let's just say he put his hands on her and the police get involved and all this hoopla happens. Now she's forced to believe that she's responsible for all of this happening because all she had to do was not take his phone.
And threatening his career. His career being threatened.
Yes.
So going from an A-list actor to D-list immediately.
Yes. All I had to do was not take his phone. That was my fault. I took his phone and pissed him off. That's my fault. When actually, honey, you could have done anything in the world and he wouldn't have had any right whatsoever to put his hands on you. So it's not your fault.
Right.
You and whoever else out there may be thinking this way. It's not your fault. There's never any reason ever for a man to put his hands on you.
Right.
Especially over and over and over again.
Right.
So, yeah. So she's that message that she wrote read exactly like she is carrying that mentality.
And it's, as a man, it's tough seeing this situation happen, because there's so many different levels and so many layers to this that you have to think of. And then at the end of the day, knowing what would happen if he was found guilty of this and knowing what is probably going on behind the scenes, to get her to retract this statement and to get her to not press charges and to get her to not do this and not do that. I mean, he's literally probably trying to save the bulk of his career right now, especially with what he's got going on.
Well,
right
you got to understand, they don't have to convince her to say anything.
Right.
She's going to say it anyway. She's going to defend him. She's going to take the blame. She's going to cry. She's going to be hurt. She probably really is literally having a hard time with this and blaming herself. She's not making this up. She really, what you read in those text messages is what she really believes. Nobody is coercing her, I don't believe. She really believes that. And she feels like it's her fault.
And there were a lot of people that I saw that recognized what they read like.
And those people have probably been in abusive relationships.
Right, and they realized it. And then, because instantly when I saw the text messages without reading them, I was like, okay, this is really one of these instances because everyone is quick to rush to judgment. I was like, this is one of these instances where waiting to see what happened was more prudent because here it is. He has proof that he didn't do anything. But then I read the text messages and I was like, wait a minute now. I don't know if this was that shrewd of a legal move by his lawyer, because his lawyer is clearly saying, look at this. She's saying that she's responsible and that he's not guilty. But she's also describing the incident that happened, and there was still some physicality in that. And you're not permitted to or allowed to strangle someone just because they took your phone.
Yeah.
Even at the end of the day, that does not absolve you.
Correct.
So that makes this entire thing crazy. And now it makes his lawyer and his team look crazy because, now.
But if you go into a court of law, and she gets on the stand, if she says he didn't do anything, he didn't hit me, that's enough.
It is enough. But then now comes in the conspiracy theory that people talk about and the difference of how black men, especially famous black men, are treated in a court of law as it, juxtaposed against two white men that have been in similar situations. Her getting on the stand saying he didn't do anything, but the text messages reading and saying that there was some physicality. Does he make it out of that?
And why you can't discount the fact that she's a white woman. That takes it up a notch.
So let's talk about that a little bit for a second, because I've seen a lot of people, and of course you're going to hear these conversations. There's a lot of people that said, hey, if he'd have just been dating a black woman, this wouldn't have happened. This happened because he was dating a white woman, and there goes another black man in Hollywood once again getting him a white woman, and this is what happens, and this is how this always ends. So, we've had conversations about, interracial marriage, and we've had conversations about, these stars and these athletes who are doing this, and, those conversations have gone here and there. But, what are your thoughts when you see and you hear people saying, well, if he hadn't have been with this white woman, this wouldn't have happened? And what does that say about black women at the end of the day and what they feel like we're supposed to tolerate? Or what's going to happen to you if you're dating a black woman versus a white woman?
Unfortunately, the abuse that we're talking about right here, right now, this is generational for black women. It's not new, basically. We just learned that was not supposed to be happening. That's new for black women. White women, I don't know for sure, but I don't think that that's been the case for them. And even if it is, you're not going to go into a court of law and I just believe that it's going to be more difficult to not see this black man as a black man and this white woman as a white woman, as opposed to going into a court of law and both people are black or both people are white, or it being a white man and a black woman. If it's a black man and a white woman, I just feel like it's going to turn up way more. Because in my opinion, in this country, it's always about taking the black man down. So if you add into the mix that he has hurt or possibly hurt a white woman, man, come on. I mean, look at how people treated Chris Brown, and Rihanna has fans of all nationalities.
Right.
Look how people treated Chris Brown. If it was a regular, ordinary, not Rihanna person, I don't think it would have gone like that.
because of her white fan base, you felt like it was blown out of proportion.
She's very popular with white folks.
So what do you think about in the case of Tory Lanez and Meg Thee Stallion?
White folks don't care.
It did kind of blow up a little bit, though.
I think that's
Not to the
because
same
now
level.
black people are aware about abuse. If this was 1980,
I mean, because Chris Brown's happened, a few years ago. So that was kind of before this thing kind of blew up.
I think Meg has some white fans.
She does. She does.
Maybe not to Rihanna's level,
No, of course
but
not.
she does have some white fans. And I think that I don't think it made it too far outside of the black community, though. Probably because folks don't know who Tory Lanez is.
Well, that was the issue. But I think, it became a thing because Meg went, she did the Gayle King interview. She did go out and do some press. So it became a national thing at the end of the day. And, you kind of saw the reactions there instantly. In a lot of instances, she was made to be the guilty party.
Of course.
In that, right off the bat.
And she legitimately had evidence.
Right.
She had legitimate evidence, and
Right.
still people found a way to blame her for that.
Right.
And,
Right.
that's another reason. I don't know if it's relative to this particular situation with Jonathan Majors, but that is also why women who have been domestically abused don't say nothing. Because you're not going to believe me.
Right.
So it's better in some cases, in our minds, it's better to just hope they get off
Do you think that,
or not press charges.
or
rather.
did you feel that Jonathan Majors got the benefit of the doubt more instantly in this particular case than maybe somebody else would have in the
Before
same?
the text messages?
Yes, when the news first came out.
No. I think from what I saw, I think people believed it immediately.
I didn't see a lot. I saw a little bit of half and half. I saw some people who instantly turned on him. Instantly. People who I had seen tweeting a week ago that were singing his praises of being in Creed and turned immediately when the allegations came out.
I saw people who automatically, mostly what I saw was people who automatically believed it, and once they found out it was a white woman, that's when it started breaking up. That's when I started seeing splits. I don't know really why that is, but that's when I started seeing it.
And it's crazy.
The white woman made a difference.
The white woman made a difference. And I didn't even know he was dating a white woman until somebody posted the picture.
So
Didn't have
does
any
that
idea.
mean it's more believable because she's white? Or does it mean that he is, or are they angry with him now because she was white?
There is an inherent bias that we know exists in this country. The King Kong complex is what they call it. The savage, animalistic black male and the damsel in distress white woman. These things came out, when LeBron James did the infamous cover, many, many years back.
OJ didn't help.
OJ, instantly when people saw that picture of him with the white girlfriend, the conversation took a turn. Because there, again, as I said, there is an inherent bias that exists. So it must have been Jonathan Majors on his part that did something to harm this, chaste, untouched white woman.
She gets the benefit of the doubt.
She gets the benefit of the doubt, even in her saying that it's my fault, whether it's a trauma response or whatever the case is. She's getting the
Trauma
benefit of the doubt.
responses don't hold up in court.
Yeah, I mean, I get that. Ultimately, in court, it's going to be, did this abuse actually happen? Did this assault happen? Did you put your hands on her? That's what it's going to come down to. So now it's going to be, can she convince them that he did not put his hands on her?
Yeah, that's ultimately what it comes down to.
Even if she's saying he didn't really put his hands on me and it's my fault, saying that it's my fault is still not saying that he didn't put your hands on it.
Correct. And today you can't even say, no, I don't want to press charges.
Because the charges is going to get pressed.
Correct. And if it's a black man that they can take down, especially one that's about to tear the roof out your mouth with the money, and become a little bit of power, have a little bit of power and influence because of his actions and his growth in his area.
Do you really? It's suspect, but do you really think in this particular case that this was, we're going to get Jonathan Majors or we have the chance to get him, or was he just really awful with his timing and his lack of self-control?
It could be either. Really. I think white people like him. So
I mean, they do.
I don't think it was, no effort being made. Timing is probably an issue, but I have to be tread real lightly on that timing thing, because if it's been happening, it was going to come to light at some point, whether he was already filming all this phenomenal things that he has coming up or not. It was bound to come to light, and it might be the best thing that could ever happen to him to come to light now.
Right.
Because maybe he can get some help. If this is true, we don't know.
I mean, well, we know that he put his hands on her in some shape, form, or fashion. We don't know the extent.
Yeah.
So saying that he didn't do it, that did happen. The question is this: in this day and age and in this time frame, getting accused of putting your hands on a woman, as much as there is zero tolerance for it, even if he's found not guilty in the court, or it's a lighter sentence or whatever the case is, and they say, okay, it was just circumstantial, contact or whatever the case is he able to salvage his reputation going forward?
This country is real fickle. It works one way on one person, and in an identical situation, it's completely different. But I will say that with all the stirring about of R. Kelly and a few other people and the Me Too movement, and it's just, like you said, it's no tolerance. Like, there's zero tolerance. I don't know what he'll be able to salvage. Even if he doesn't get convicted, this is still going to be something that hurts him.
Right. And then you wonder, what is this going to do for him getting jobs later on? Because it's a different conversation when you're talking about somebody like what's the guy, Mel? Is it Mel Gibson?
Mm-hmm.
Mel Gibson, with his religious rant, he hasn't been in a whole lot, since that happened. You've got some instances where, Hollywood has kind of washed their hands.
Kevin Spacey. I haven't seen him. Like, the dude just disappeared.
Yeah, well, I mean, he was pretty douchey with what he did.
Well, so I think that being remorseful and honest goes a long, long way. At least it does with me. So it's going to be for me about how he handles himself going forward. Mm-hmm. Does he make any changes? Does he make a statement? Is his statement believable, or is he just trying to save face? Is he going to get some therapy? It's going to be for me what he does next that makes a difference for me.
Does he come out and say, I've got a problem, this happened, I'm going to get
I should have controlled myself, it's my fault, I did put my hands on her, I will never do it again, I am going to get help, I don't want to be this way, I'm not an angry person, whatever he needs to say. Because
that's admitting it, and that's pretty, nobody's really actually done that before.
He can wait until he get charged, until he go through court. I don't care when he does it, but that would go a long way for me. I mean, it probably go a long way with whatever judge he goes in front of too. Like, we need to know that you are not a monster, and that this is not just who you are.
So then the question begs itself, and I think I've asked you this on this podcast before, because we've talked about this before. Is there a redemption arc and a redemption story for someone who has been abusive? Because usually the motif is to just throw them away as being shitty human beings at the end of the day.
Well, you know how I feel about that. I think everybody deserves a second chance. I believe that if God can forgive us, we should be able to offer grace and forgiveness to others. So, and I know for a fact that my abuser has changed his life around. So I know that it can happen. I know people don't have to continuously be the person that they were at a certain point when they were making bad decisions and doing harmful things. You don't have to always be that way. So I absolutely believe he may not be able to salvage the career path that he's on.
Yes, the meteoric.
But that doesn't mean that he can't do something else and regain favor.
That's fair.
But yeah, I absolutely believe that people can redeem themselves and restore themselves and heal. I have to believe that.
So, it's going to be interesting to see what happens at the end of the day. But
I wish the brother the best, and I actually wish the young lady healing, because I really do truly believe that she is in a trauma bond. And I really do truly believe that she needs to heal.
Do you know how
from
long
that.
they've been together? Had you
I
seen it?
have no idea.
I didn't know that either.
I wonder if it was an intentional effort to keep her a secret. Because he got a whole lot of black women out here just, all on him.
Yeah.
All on him, especially after he did that magazine feature.
Yeah.
Now, if you come out with a white woman, that's going to change.
Yes, and it has changed the moment that did change. I kind of remember watching the Jackson 5, an American Story or whatever you call it, and Joe Jackson was, telling Jermaine that he didn't need to tell people that he was married because a part of their appeal was being attainable. Yeah. And, you having the opportunity to be with him. So, no, I didn't even know he had a significant other until I saw the pictures and until this came out. Because even when they first started, they were saying that this was a woman. They were not saying that this was his girlfriend, and it changed to his girlfriend. But I do know for a fact that when that picture of him and his girlfriend started making the rounds on social media, a lot of black women were
put off.
Were done at that point and were kind of put off.
Yeah, it's insulting to a lot of black women.
Elaborate on that.
Because it's kind of like just what you said earlier about us holding you down until you get to a certain point, and now you think that you deserve better than what we are. And for you, better is white or Asian or something, not black. Right? So a lot of black women, especially those who have experienced being picked over or broken up with, and then your next one is not even black. Like that's a community trauma that we have, because it goes all the way back to slavery when we were being raped. Our great grandmothers being raped by slave masters and things like that. So we expected the black men to hold us down because we've given so much. And in our relationships, when black people, a black couple, there's a lot that we have to face, especially together and then individually. So when you leave the race, for some women, it makes us feel, a little less than, not good enough, So, and especially that you feel like once you get money, then that's when you want to date a white woman. If you dating a white woman broke, tomato. But when you get the money, we see a lot of that.
So it's okay to go out when you broke and, take a shot at dating a white woman.
I'm not.
But when you get the money, don't do it.
That is a hard pill for black women holistically, not individually, not all black women, but for, a community of black women. It's like, okay, so then what we supposed to do when you get to a good position in your life where you are now sustaining yourself and others and everybody around you, then you get a white woman, and the black women, good black women, are still out here single. So that's just kind of but it's a trauma response. It's trauma. All of this is trauma.
I mean, it's historic. trauma. Speaking of which, I want to talk about a conversation that you had with a client or a shopper that was coming into Queens Franklin's closet, or maybe a client, I'm not exactly sure. But y'all had an interesting conversation. She said something interesting to you, and I was like, okay, we need to talk about that on the podcast. And it kind of goes in line with what we've been talking about and what you just actually said about Black women and the trauma response and the slave masters coming in and raping the women. Just talk about that conversation and how you felt initially. And let's have this conversation, because I thought it was something that, you know, I think bears us talking about.
This wasn't a client. This was someone in a meeting that I was in.
Okay.
And we were having a conversation about colorism.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, light skin, fair skin versus dark skin. Mm-hmm. And you were asking me about, you know, I don't know what you were asking.
What did she say to you first?
I can't remember exactly what she said to me, but basically it was lending to the idea that I may have entitlement in my life because of my fair skin.
Light skin with long hair.
Yeah.
So what was your initial reaction to that in your head?
Well, my initial reaction was it's difficult for me to see myself as light skinned with long hair, which is weird. Mm-hmm. Because the connotation, I know what that means to people, especially with darker skin. Mm-hmm. But I've never felt like that in my life. Mm-hmm. I couldn't tell you a time where I felt entitled because of my skin color.
Right.
But I'm not saying that I have not been in situations where that has been the case, because I understand colorism, but I don't know that I can't tell you a time where I actually felt like that.
You never felt that you were put in an advantageous situation, even romantically or even professionally. It's never come across your table before. You never experienced it before. Realized that it existed, but did not even see yourself from that vantage point. But what do you think from someone else's vantage point? You know, what do you think, you know, they have looked at you and maybe thought in these years?
I don't know. I mean, I know what people think about light skin. I've never had anybody say anything to me specifically about that. So, but I know I have enough people in my life who have darker skin, who have dealt with colorism. I know enough to know that it exists. But for some reason, the people that I have been around have never made me feel like that particularly. I mean, there are people who have darker skin who I have not so good energy with for no apparent reason at all.
But that's not a skin color thing, no.
Could be. It could be. I mean, I don't have any other reason to, I mean, you know, it could be from their own life perspective. People can only meet you from the experiences that they've had in their lives.
So in thinking back, you know, of course, you know, you are probably the spitting image of your father, and your father was very heavily involved in the movement, and you being very Afrocentric and being, you know, his daughter and being involved and being active yourself. Have you ever seen that, or did you ever feel like, or did he ever express a thought of feeling like, because of me being light skinned, I have to try to be more active in this fight and in this struggle than other people might have to because of how people see me.
No.
Not at all.
No.
Never came across the plate.
You're asking me if my daddy was involved in the civil rights work that he was involved in because
No.
he thought he was because
did he ever feel like, or even in you, because of being light skinned, did you have to go harder or have more to prove?
You know, I've never thought about that before, but I'm reminded of a tap sister who told me one time that all the light-skinned people she know are militant AF. We can
cuss on here.
We are the. I can curse or not curse. It's my choice.
Okay.
We are the Malcolms, the Malcolm X's, the by any means necessary people. One might argue that could be the case. That might be why Malcolm was actually fair-skinned himself.
He was Detroit Red.
So that could legitimately have some truth to it. I am absolutely 110,000% down for whatever revolutionary. And I guess there could be an argument for the fact that mine could be privilege, actually. Now that we're thinking about this, that I have a little bit of I dare you in me, you know. I'm definitely not passing for a Caucasian. I'm not, that light. But I could probably do more damage discreetly than a darker skinned person. That's probably fair to say.
So I could say this inherently because of what I experienced with my color or my skin tone coming up, because, I came up in the very beginning in an age where, dark skinned guys were not popular. I was able to dabble in both generations. So I can remember that. And I oftentimes think sometimes if there was something inherently placed in my head because of the color of my skin and some of the decisions that I made, or even as dark-skinned guys became popular, was there some type of privilege that we had on our end? I look back at it and I see that I have only dated or been in longer term relationships, would have really been dating or been with fair skinned or light skinned women. Light skinned, I want to say skinned.
And why do you think that is?
I don't know. I look at it as just a coincidence, but then I sometimes think, is it something inherent? Because again, at the end of the day, there's inherent things that are within us that sometimes unconsciously we might do.
I will tell you this. Now, this is true. I am absolutely more attracted to darker men. The darker, the better. You are perfect.
Because I'm really dark.
And the reason why I know this to be true, in my mind, dark-skinned men are the epitome of Afrocentricity. So if I think of a black man in my head, the first thing that's going to come to my mind is a dark-skinned man. So for me, in all my love of all things black, I find it attractive. I find it strong. I find it powerful. I find just to have dark skin. And maybe that in some way, shape, or form, deep down inside my little light skin mind, legitimizes my connection to my African roots.
Now, see what we just tapped into having this conversation?
That's something now.
It is.
Because we started this off and I was like, I don't have anything for this. This doesn't.
But I know you did.
This doesn't resonate with me.
But I know you did.
Yeah,
you had to kind of talk it out because we have those contrasts. And I'm really dark, and you're light skinned, and I've always dated light skinned women, and you like dark skinned men.
And people expect light skinned people
to be with dark skinned men.
Yeah, but they expect light skinned people to not be serious, especially as it comes with revolution.
Well, you see the memes all the time for light skinned dudes and how light skinned dudes react to things versus dark skinned dudes.
Yes.
You see that. So there's already in society this inherent.
So we got to go extra. We got to be extra.
Go hard.
So you're going to find the black women, the light skinned black women being militant and about that life. And, Angela Davis.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? If we in it, we going all the way in.
Got to be hard.
Got to be super hard.
Inherently, there might be something there that says I have to because I'm not black.
And they're not going to believe me otherwise.
Right.
They're going to just think I'm here for show.
That's a wild thing.
That's a deep thing.
It is a deep thing.
That thing is deep.
It is deep. So we're going to put a pin in that, and we're going to definitely come back to that.
I got to meditate on that thing.
It's a lot. So we're going to actually come back and talk about that again later at some point, but I wanted to kind of tap into that. We could go on forever, but I know folks don't want to hear us talk for
Let me say this before we get off of it.
Okay.
My tap sisters often say, call me light-skinned, and I will say to them, I'm not light-skinned. I would say to them,
I don't understand.
And they laugh at me. They laugh at me, and I'd be like, I'm not light-skinned. And I'll go to someone who is fairer-skinned than I am and say, that's light-skinned. So innately, somewhere in me, I see a really dark-skinned black woman.
Mm-hmm. Or in your mind, you're saying the light skin brings a connotation that you don't want to be associated with of softness.
A softness. Mm-hmm. Let's change it because I'm finna cry.
Oh, my goodness. All right. So with that being said, we're going to wrap up this episode. We appreciate you guys for joining us. But these are these conversations that come out between a husband and a wife in the privacy of our own home. And you actually got to see us go deep on something and hear us go deep on something right here, right now. But we're going to put a pin in it and we're going to come back to it. But of course,
I got to process that.
We really appreciate you guys listening to us and continuing to stick with us, man. Please make sure you go and subscribe to the YouTube channel and make sure you go and go on to Spotify, check us out on all the streaming services and make sure you are, following, all of those different areas where you can hear us on all streaming services as well. And check us out on Black with No Chaser Radio. All right. So, for this podcast, this is a wrap. And this is According to Kaz Queen. All right.